Hey guys, it's Yankee Prepper. This is going to be the first vid in a grouping of vids, sort of a video diary of the steps and overview of what I'm going to do to restore this 1978 Dodge Motorhome back to an acceptable level, at least personally to me, of aesthetics, performance, and dependability. I'll eventually make this into a playlist, but I'll also handle this in different phases, whether I'm handling different sections of the engine or whether I'm handling the interior or the exterior. All this will be split up into phases of the restore. The first thing I'll do is thoroughly inspect the vehicle visually, and I will make a list of every single part that I'll need to make this vehicle right for me. That it may include a leak that I see, or a part that I know I want to replace, or even upgrades. I'll make a list of everything I need, order it all at once. That's what you see here. When the parts come in, I'll make another list, starting with the hardest project first, making my way down to the easiest to end with. And in this case, the hardest repair, the one I'll start with, is the leaking exhaust manifold. I knew I had an exhaust leak on the manifold when I bought it. I actually used that to my advantage to get the price down on the vehicle. But exhaust manifolds can be a pretty daunting project. Sometimes they're easy, but in most cases that is a very difficult part to remove. And so that's the one I'll start with. Before you attempt taking your exhaust manifold off, I highly recommend soaking those bolts down with PB Blaster. Just a little bit, it won't take much. I figured out why there's an exhaust leak. I got a cracked manifold. So, off to the junkyard. A quick trip to Hutch Auto. I got a new replacement. So the first thing I'll do is clean this up. Once I'm done brushing it off with the angle grinder, I'll finish it with brake cleaner, just to make sure all the oil residue is off. Although I've never had one bad enough that I couldn't use it, it's probably a good idea before you put it on to check your manifold with a straight edge, just to make sure that the thing's not warped so bad that you couldn't use it. This one's in good shape. And lastly, this is one project I never use the same bolts with. I always go out and replace the bolts with grade 8 bolts. I just buy them at the hardware store and match them up. These bolts take a tremendous amount of heat from this part of the engine, and then alternately it cools off, and over time it weakens the metal. So it's just best to start off with brand new bolts. I also coat all the bolts with a high temp anti-seize lubricant. I set the exhaust manifold on the down tube to the exhaust, and then I put the gasket behind it, and then I just start hand tightening the bolts. I'll then start snugging them down, just lightly and evenly. Okay, and what I'm doing, just hand snugging these up evenly, as I'm compressing the gasket evenly. That's going to make the gasket last a lot longer, and it won't put any stress on your manifold either. That's a crucial step. Then after that's done, I'll move on to my torque wrench, which I believe for this application is 15 foot-pounds per bolt. Start from the middle and work your way out. Again, even, as even as you can. That's the magic click I'm looking for. All that's left after that is to attach the exhaust to the manifold, and again I'll use grade 8 bolts for that as well, brand new. Now the other side doesn't have any exhaust leaks, but normally if I'm changing one side and I have all the tools out, I'll just go ahead and change the other side as well. However, I noticed, if you can see that right at the tip of my finger there and there are a couple hairline cracks in this manifold. And so rather than risk breaking this one as well, I'm just going to leave it on until I have a problem with it. In the meantime, I'll be trying to source another manifold size for side for this, just to have it on hand. The only thing left is to see if it works. Pretty quiet. still some smoke left over from the PB blaster, but no ticking, no exhaust leak. Probably not a coincidence, but when I fixed the exhaust leak up front and restored the full pressure, the seam on my muffler blew out. Started making a funny rattling noise shortly after I was testing the motor out, so this has got to come off. New one's got to go on. Here we go. Made in the USA. Finally something. It was made by Lori Massey. Thanks a lot, Lori. I do appreciate this muffler. That's a proper muffler. Gotta have a round muffler for motorhome. Round and rugged. I decided to replace the rest of the exhaust out the back and put a cool chrome tip on just to be cool. Now that I got the exhaust leak taken care of, I'm going to move on to giving this thing a good tune-up. But before I do that, I'm going to clean the engine up. I'll just use simple green. It's the best stuff that I've found for the job. And to me, this is normal oil and grime on an engine that's got 70,000 miles on it. It's probably never been cleaned up before. But I just want to see if there are any major leaks. Washing it off will make it a lot easier to work on, and if there are any problems, it'll be easy to spot. So now I'm ready to move on to the next phase, which will be replacing all the spark plug wires. I got a new cap and coil. I'm going to give this thing a major tune-up. I'm also going to change out the valve cover gaskets. After washing it off, I can see right away there's a little weeping, and while I'm in here, I'm just going to get that done and probably repaint the valve covers themselves. I'll also replace all the vacuum lines, the few that there are, and the belts as well. Maybe a few other things. We'll see. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video, guys. Sounds good.